Well, Michael, I'm sure you've been keeping up with all the reactions. We're starting with the reactions of the mayor of Minneapolis. Jacob Frey is worried about the backlash against the trans community. Does that surprise you?
My first thought was the very same first thought that you had, Tom, that was to the Norm bit. He was doing the Norm bit, except Norm was telling a joke, and this mayor was dead serious. And, with this kind of an issue, you have to ask yourself, okay, is it mental health? Is it ideology? Is it religious? And the answer is it's obviously all of these things. But on the transgender point, this was common sense until about 6 or 7 years ago. But if you're a person who thinks he's the opposite sex, that is dispositive evidence that you have a serious mental problem. And we used to try to treat that, and we used to try to help people who were having serious mental problems so that they weren't a danger to themselves or to others. And now it's flipped completely on its head. And I think he knows that. I think a lot of the reaction from Jacob Frey and other people who have said similar things is coming from a place of a kind of guilt. Say, well, we can't acknowledge that people who are displaying obvious mental problems, maybe spiritual problems too, that there were warning signs here. And so you have to completely ignore that, distract from that, and thereby distract from the tragedy that we've all seen. It's a completely absurd reaction, and he's rightly receiving a lot of ire for it.
And don't you think that the people who do talk about this issue, if they're talking about that as a mental illness, they're coming from a place of compassion. I don't hear people out there, these right-wing thinkers saying now it's time to round up anyone who's trans. The idea that someone's going through trauma and that needs to be addressed. It would be the same thing as if you were wondering about the effects of SSRIs or some of the other issues that people have in modern society, that people on the right are saying we have to address this issue, but how can you address it if they're just going to label our concern as hate?
Yes, of course. I mean, it obviously comes from a place of charity, and this is why during all of the trans discourse, which really I think was basically settled, this was the final horrific culmination of it. But even the people who have been pro-trans have really run away from embracing that issue because we know, according to the largest data sets on it, that the trans surgeries and the trans hormonal procedures and all, none of that ameliorates any of the associated conditions, the depression, the anxiety, the suicidality. And look, this is common sense. When you lie to people, that's not going to help them. We have this old-fashioned view that the truth sets you free and that lies are very cruel. And people have tried to flip that on its head, and they've called us haters for telling the truth. But really, clarity is charity, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there was always that statistic that you would hear, and I still hear it when people talk about the argument for intervention, surgical intervention. They say that would you rather have do you want your child to commit suicide is what they're saying, right?
Yeah. Would you rather have a living daughter or a dead son? It's even why, it's been reported that the mother of the shooter signed off on a name change from a male to a female when he was a minor. And so a lot of people are dogpiling on the mother, which again, to your point, Tom, I totally agree. Your first reaction really has to be prayer here, because the prayer implies action at some point. Faith produces works. But whatever the political action we've been taking, that obviously has failed. And this is a fallen world, and so we pray and we ask consolation from God, and we don't pile on people who are grieving. For this mother, I have no doubt that some doctor at some point told her that statement. Would you rather have a living daughter or a dead son? And the fact is, that was a lie, and that's a big scandal. And if you want some political action down the line, that would be one of the things that we have to address. You have to extirpate lies from your culture, because when you live out of accord with reality, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah, and I think, from what I've seen, the mother in this case was a member of this church. Am I right? I've seen that online. Yeah. It looks like there's evidence that she was part of that church, and that's how that there seems to be some connection there. We talked about prayer and, the phrase thoughts and prayers. I think the mayor, Jacob Frey, has thoughts on the thoughts and prayers. Let's play that sound.
And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends.
Okay, the last couple of sentences he said there, I think you and I would agree with him there. These are kids that they should be in church, they should be praying, they should be with their friends. But his line about he's sick and tired of the thoughts and prayers. Jen Psaki said the same kind of a thing.
Nauseating.
Yeah, I mean,
It's nauseating because what is in there, look, Frey is a fine politician, so he gussies it up in all this sentimental language. He's mocking dead children is what he's doing. Because what he is saying is, well, these kids were praying, and a lot of good their prayers did them, huh? Where is your God now? What he is saying is tantamount to what the shooter put on one of his magazines. It's a mockery of religion, it's a mockery of prayer, and it is therefore a mockery of the kids who were praying. And it's nauseating. He should leave public life in disgrace. But then I have a question for him because it's also incoherent. He says, he is insinuating, I think, prayers are not enough. We need political action. Enough of your prayers. That's distracting from strong political action. You need to elect progressive politicians who are going to take effective action, much more efficacious than the prayers of those children. Well, what I would ask him is, aren't you the mayor? Haven't you already been elected? Aren't you the mayor of Minneapolis in a state that is completely controlled by your political party? So if you're setting up this false dichotomy between prayer and action, well, okay, you've been elected. Where's the political action? You want to accuse God of failing? You want to have the temerity to accuse the prayers of the community and of the children of failing? Well, you're in office. Really, if anyone's failed, it's you and your political action. How about you get off your high horse and have a little humanity and grieve with people and pray when that's the right thing to do?
Yeah, I think that you have, we're going back to I remember the Newtown shooting. This was terrible. All these children were killed. And then Barack Obama gave a speech, which he was praised for. He got up and he was crying, but it was a speech where he said, it's time now for gun control. He could waste no time after that awful event to essentially do some PR for his pet legislation.
It's tasteless. I mean, it's totally tasteless. It's classless, but it's also in this case incoherent because he's setting up a straw man, a boogeyman here to say it's all these Christians. It's all these Christians who are preventing us from taking the necessary steps. Our own Mary Margaret Olahan was on my show this morning, breaking a story that in the wake of the trans shooting of a Christian school, totally analogous event here in Nashville, that this school requested security from the state to help secure the area, and the governor said no. And so again, I really don't mean to just jump down the throats of all of the politicians. First of all, they're the ones who started it. But I don't mean to jump down their throats and make it about one political issue or another. But if you're going to do that, well, hey, don't you guys have the power? You control virtually every office in the state of Minnesota. What's your answer, But before you go blaming God and blaming Christians for the tragedies that befall the world, if you're going to claim the possibility of stopping these things, why haven't you done it?